Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Average Joe Dividends YouTube channel. This is portfolio update number 197. And on the Monday buys, what I do is I deposit $100 into this account, and then I let M1 do the stock picking for me. What I mean by that is I use Auto Invest. You can see I have Auto Invest for my deposits. I have that selected. So the $100 where it's going to go is going to be dependent on what is underweighted in the portfolio. We can see here we're slightly underweighted with the ETFs portion. I'll show you the ETFs really quickly. That has SCHD and BST in it, and that's the majority of this portfolio. And then we can see here with the dividend portfolio, this portion is the most underweighted. You can see the 10 more dividends. That's 10 more selections, 10 more stocks that I decided to add later. But we can see that's overweighted. So any new monies that goes into this portfolio while using Auto Invest, it's not going to go there. It's going to go here until we've gotten closer to the target. You can see here, I'll show you the dividend portfolio. We'll try to take a guess and see what is underweighted here. You can see like AbbVie, that is right where it's supposed to be. We are underweighted with Prudential, slightly at 0.2%. You see Microsoft 0.3. We'll go down here. We'll see where we're likely more underweighted. Costco 0.4. Waste Management, that's right where it's supposed to be. But I'm not going to go through all of these, but it kind of gives you an idea of where the money is going to go. And so I'll do is I'll go to the activity log here in just a second. But you can see the performance of this portfolio over time has done quite well. And I'm going to go to the 1 year view. You can see here where we have times, with the stock market where it just starts going down. You have no control over that. But one thing I do have control over with this portfolio is when I can make deposits and buy more shares of dividend paying companies. So you can see here it didn't look very good. Right around April 8th was the low point, but you can see we've had a nice recovery ever since with June 11th, 12th, right around there. The 12th was the high point. We've gone down slightly, but we're still in the 280s. And you can see we were in the 240s in these moments in time, and that was not too long ago, last year, and then just back in April. So you really can't control where the market's going to go, but you can control your deposits in adding to your portfolio. So let's go ahead and we'll go to the activity log. You can see here is the deposit that was made. Looks like last night is when I did the deposit of $100. And then here is the buy at 107.82. But we had a dividend with Waste Management. So one of the buys out of the four is going to be a dividend drip with Waste Management, the 876 there. So we'll click here in the morning trading with this just completed moments ago. And we can see right there, the Waste Management again, this is going to be a dividend drip. So it looks like Costco again. I think last Monday, Costco was also a buy in there. And this is based again on Auto Invest. So we'll click on this, and this is not going to buy very much of Costco, even though 45.19 isn't, it's not nothing. We'll click on it. And the 45.19 bought 0.04564 of a share of Costco. So just a little sliver of Costco, buying it slowly but surely. Of course, people say Costco is, it's overpriced, but Costco has been overpriced and expensive for many years now. So, but whenever Costco, I have it, and whenever it pays its dividend, I'm never sorry. And also when I see the stock appreciation, especially when that special dividend is paid, I'm never sorry owning Costco. And then next up, Pepsi, no surprise. Pepsi's just been struggling as, the economy has not been doing great. And people are spending less and less on, snack food items, things like that. People are tightening their belt. But I think, though, over time, I think Pepsi is a good long-term investment. Of course, that's just my own opinion. So $12.80 of the $100 went into Pepsi, and that bought 0.09928 of a share of Pepsi, so nearly 10% of a share there of Pepsi. And then Kimberly Clark, 4107 of the $100 went into Kimberly Clark there, so it bought 0.3196 of a share of KMB. And then the last one, which I told you, Waste Management, this is a dividend drip. So 876 was the dividend. It went into right back into Waste Management and bought 0.03757 of a share of Waste Management. And what we're going to see here in a little bit is we're going to see the next new dividends for all four of these. So to show that, we have to go on over to my Google Docs spreadsheet, and here I track all the positions that are in the portfolio. I'll leave a link below for this Google Docs spreadsheet as well as M1 so you can see what's all in this portfolio as well. But you can see what's in the portfolio on the Google Docs spreadsheet too. But on this page, it shows the Google Docs spreadsheet. It shows the company ticker symbol, the number of shares that I own. You can see the share price as well. Using the Google Doc or Google Finance function to pull that, and then the average share price I've paid for each of these positions. It uses a VLOOKUP on the M1 data tab. We're going to paste some data into the M1 data tab to update those buys for those 4 buys that I just completed this morning. Like I said, you can see the shares using the VLOOKUP. Here's the current value of PNC. Here's my cost basis. Here's the gain or loss, including dividends. Here is that gain or loss in a percentage. Anything 25% or above will be in the green. Here is the dividends per share. These are all quarterly payers except for those in blue with Realty Income and BST. And the reason for the color coding of the companies is right here. With the color key, I identify what quarter, or actually, which month that each of these is going to pay in. And some of them jump around. I think Pepsi jumps around a little bit where it changes its color. And I think Coke does as well. Pepsi and Coke, and there may be another one in here where it doesn't stay to the same color. But something like Exxon and Microsoft Prudential, those always stay in the dark green. So we are in June, so we are in the dark greens, and this is where most of my companies are actually paying their dividends. And the sheet it's actually arranged by the pay date. I sort it from A to Z by the pay date. And we can see here's our June payers, and the ones that have paid so far. Do a quick count up with the last one being Waste Management, which was on the 21st is when it paid its dividend. So I woke up Saturday morning and got that Waste Management dividend, the 876, and the total sum I received so far in June of dividends is $261.73, but we have quite a few left to pay. And we can see right here, here's the remaining dividends to be paid with BlackRock. Actually, tomorrow morning I'll wake up and receive that dividend here, and I'll put it here, and then I'll have another drip just like with Waste Management. But I've done, as you can see, some of these I've typed in the dividend here, like with Pepsi, the 24.38. That's going to go up, but we're past the ex-dividend date, so we're going to see a new dividend for Pepsi that's going to pay in September. Same with, you can see Costco, we're not past the ex-dividend date. So in August, or right around August 17th, we're going to see Costco pay a new dividend. So I've put in the current dividend, and the next dividend is going to change for Costco and Pepsi and Kimberly Clark. But for Kimberly Clark, same as Pepsi, we're past the ex-dividend date. So it's going to be in October where we're going to see that new dividend for Kimberly-Clark. We're also going to see the monthly, quarterly, and annual dividends for this portfolio. Those are also going to go up as well with these 4 buys. So we're going to grab some data from M1, and it's going to be from the holdings tab right here. What I do is I grab everything from the name column, and I grab all this data, and you can see the data that it's really grabbing is the shares, the average price, and the cost basis. And how I capture that is on the M1 data tab. And I do a pay special here, values only, and you can see how it aligns the shares, the cost basis, and average. For example, SCHD right there on the top. And then over on this page on the dividend portfolio tab, remember how those VLOOKUPs were pulling the average share price I've paid for each position and the number of shares as well as the cost basis. So that's what it's doing, is it's pulling that data over on this page, so I don't have to type in those values. I don't have to type in the average share price I've paid or the new share price or the cost basis for those 4 positions where I bought fractional shares. So it's automatically changed that for us. We can see first up with Costco, the old dividend $3.86, and now it's moving up to $3.92. It's not a lot of change, but look at though, we're buying into a 0.52% dividend yield, so it's not going to be, it's not going to change very much, especially with Costco with that 0.52%. It'll move more for the others, especially Kimberly-Clark, because Kimberly-Clark has a higher dividend yield. But little by little, we're moving that dividend up with Costco. Then next up, this is the dividend drip with Waste Management. So in September, right around September 21st, moving from $8.76 now to $8.79. So getting closer and closer with Waste Management to get it to that $10 mark, which would push it in the green. You can see all these stocks here, starting from Prudential, going all the way down to Home Depot. They're all in the green because they pay $10 or more. But Waste Management not quite there. But tomorrow I'll receive a dividend that's higher than $10. You can see BlackRock at $11.05. As a matter of fact, let's look up and see what that new dividend will be. I'll show you how I do that. Go to the portfolio. And I believe BlackRock is in the 10 more dividends here. It is. It's right here. And then what I do is I go to the 1 month view, and most of the time it'll show the dividends earned. Sometimes I have to move to the 3 month, but in the case of BlackRock, it shows it at the 1 month view, $11.05. So I didn't buy any fractional shares after the ex-dividend date. That sometimes happens, and Pepsi especially is going to not be it's not going to be $24.52 like we see here. So what I do is I'll put that in there, the $11.05. Even though I haven't received it, it's going to come up tomorrow, and I'll do plus $11.05. Oops, too many zeros there. So you can see historically how I track those dividends. You can see how BlackRock first dividend was 66 cents and how it's just gone up and up and up. And now we're over $11. And then the same thing is going to happen. We're going to drip that dividend tomorrow morning. And then the next dividend for BlackRock is going to be even higher for September. And then we can see Pepsi with a fractional share buy, a small one. We're moving from $24.38 now to $24.52 for Pepsi. We're well past that ex-dividend date, so we'll look up and see what that actual dividend is going to be here for the month of June for Pepsi. So we'll go to dividend portfolio. We'll look up Pepsi. There's Pepsi. 1 month view. So $24.16 is going to be the actual dividend I'll receive on the 30th for Pepsi. But we're building that up. So at the end of September, we're going to see, 24.52 is what it's going to be at least, if not probably more, as Pepsi has been down. You can see it's in the red. We're down 11.9%, and that's even with the aid of the dividends there. So likely it's going to be, by the time September rolls around, I'll bet you it's going to be $25 or more as I'm buying more and more fractional shares of Pepsi there. And then the last one, Kimberly-Clark. We're past the ex-dividend date, so this is going to be in October, but we're moving from $14.16 to $14.56. Let me delete those because we're not going to receive those amounts there, but could probably put in the 24.16, but I don't put that in there until I've received it. Usually I make an exception the day before and kind of show you guys how the dividends kind of roll in there. But let's look at the cash flow average monthly, quarterly, and annual. I like to track the progress of the deposits and dividend drips, and the same thing is going to happen tomorrow again with the BlackRock. It's only going to move it probably a penny or two, because that yield it's kind of in the middle of the road with 2.13% with BlackRock. So the 1105 is not going to make a huge difference, just a few cents, but it's progress. It keeps moving these dividends, all of them up, a few cents here, a few cents there, and it all adds up. So the monthly cash flow average is moving from $1,085.93 to now $1,086.14. Quarterly moving from $32.57.80 to now $32.58.43. And then the annual moving from $13,031.21 to now $13,033.73. So we're going to take now the $1,086.14. We're going to put that onto the monthly average dividend tracking tab. So $1,086.14. So we've moved the monthly income up by 21 cents, and the event was a $100 deposit and the waste management dividend drip. Let's go ahead and put in the event for tomorrow. Of course, we don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be very modest, because again it's a dividend drip. So this is going to be the BLK dividend drip. You can see this has happened before. And what I'll do is I will update the sheet tomorrow after the buy, right around 9 o'clock Central Time is when this happens. And then we'll see the new monthly average dividend will go up as a result of that. So we can see all the events just so far in June, and we're not even close to being done with June with the drips, and especially the big ones, the BST, SCHD, those haven't even rolled in yet. So I've added an additional $4.23 of monthly income to the portfolio just with these events right here. You can see what those events are. They're deposits, they're dividend drips, and they are dividend increases. You can see like O Realty had one, and then Caterpillar. I think those are the two dividend increases so far in June that we've seen. But every month I see my stocks are increasing their dividends, and that's what the increased month is over here. So we can see in July, PNC likely will be increasing their dividend as well, and as well as Hershey's. I doubt it's going to be 15% like it was last year, because Hershey's has not been doing great. I'm just barely above water with Hershey's, and that's because of the dividend. You take the dividend out, it's going to be in the red. And also looks like Duke Energy, you could probably bet money it's going to be another 2%er for Duke, but you can see though how these dividends are increasing for all these every single year, except for the VAR, which stands for variable, and O, or realty income, that's a variable because they increase their dividend multiple times per year. But over here at Digital Realty, it's been a while. It's been a couple years since Digital Realty has increased their dividends, so I've marked them in VAR. And SCH or BST, it's been several years So since they've done it, so I've marked them into zero. But you can see though, for the most part, all these are increasing their dividends year in, year out. Oracle is kind of a weird one. Every 2 years, it seems like they increase their dividend, and I think the annual average is about 13%. So what they'll do is every 2 years, they've been doing like a 25% increase, and then and since it's every 2 years, I've averaged that out to right about 13%, well, 12.5%. You can see right there has been the average for them lately. So, but you can see though, a lot of these companies, they're at like double digits annual. Some are smaller. They're 2-3%. But overall though, with all the dividend increases, it's increasing the dividends year over year. And one of the rules I have in the portfolio is if the dividend is cut, I will, or if they lower it, suspend it. If dividend is cut or suspended, that stock will be sold. So that's one of the rules I have in my strategy for these companies. If they do that, they're out. So let's go to the dividend tracker tab, and you can see I have historicals here from January 2019, where I was receiving dividends, and I didn't receive any dividends January, February 2019 because I think I was invested in like VTI, and that pays quarterly, and it pays in March, June, September, and December. But I kind of changed my philosophy a little bit in this portfolio, and then went with individual positions. But of course, SCHD, that's my largest position that has approximately 104 different positions in it. But I went to individual positions, right around here, I think it was. You can see where I was getting dividend payments on the odd months, like October, November, and then bigger in December there. And that hasn't changed much. Let's go to where we're at right now, where, for example, the first 2 months of the quarter, the January, February, that pays a small dividend, and then the last month of each quarter, the March, pays a large dividend. And you can see the same here where April, May, that's the same grouping as in January, February. And then June is going to be the big payoff. It's going to be probably over $1,800 for June 2025, but we'll see. You can see here at June 2025, here's the portfolio value rounded to the nearest $100. Here's the dividends paid so far. Here's the average monthly dividend. I take the quarterly. The sum of the quarterly payers with the monthlies, I have to add in 2 more times. And that's this column right here. The next dividend I do is I add up all that. I pull in my 2 monthly payers here. Again, let me get over there. BST and O, so I have to get those sums, add them in 2 more times to get the quarterly, and then divide the quarterly by, to get the monthly here and the quarterly annual. So you can see how that's all calculated right here. And then here is the monthly increase, how much I've added to the monthly income of the portfolio. You can see the 423, which is the same here for the June. That should add up. Yep, the 423 sum. And here's the events. And so that answers the question of how do you get it up to, this high, and how do you increase it? Well, here's the events right here. It's explained. And that's been a month over month increase of 0.39%. Here are the annual dividends, the $13,033.73. And then here is the annual increase. This is just for the month of June. I've had a $100 deposit, so I've added $700 to the portfolio in the month of June. So to close this out, we're going to go to my net worth statement here. And what's in this portfolio over here, this is about 15% of my current net worth. And that kind of gave me the confidence to have some individual positions. But you can see in this portfolio, the top 2 positions are actually, pretty well diversified, but they do 2 different things. This is a ETF of dividend paying stocks. This is covered calls, and it's not just one company. It's not like Tesla, where it's just Tesla and writing covered call options on one company. I forget how many BST uses, but it's definitely more than one. So it's more diversified. I think NVIDIA, it was the top position within it, running cover call positions with it. But my largest position in this portfolio individually is NVIDIA, but it hasn't been by deposits, though. It's just increased so much. It just became my largest position just based on performance. But you can see, if you're curious, again, I'll leave a link below of what these stocks are. And really, they're household names, really, like Caterpillar, McDonald's, Pepsi, and Starbucks, Home Depot, Coca-Cola. You can see, for the most part, it's really just tried and true blue chip companies that are in this portfolio that pay a reliable and growing dividend. So back to here. Here's where the other 85% of my net worth is in. And really, over at Vanguard, it's just boring ETFs like VYM, VTI, VXUS, along with VU and all that. But you combine it all. I have IRAs over there, a traditional and a small Roth and a taxable brokerage account, and the sum right about 485K. Here's my current employer 401K, all in a Fidelity S&P 500 fund, right about 105K. And M1, I also have a traditional IRA, and that has 711K right over there. Here's the dividend portfolio on this line. You can see, along with the average monthly dividend, what I've done is I come up with the average monthly dividend of everything else as well, the IRAs and the taxable brokerage account, because they also pay a dividend as well. Same with the 401k. You should include that even when you're tracking that. And that's what I've done here. And I also include savings account interest, you can see right here. So I add it all up, and you can see here's the average monthly dividend from all sources. So if I were to I could just draw the interest from savings and the dividends from my investment, and that's the average monthly dividend. Of course, it's not going to be a smooth $3,511.40. That's the average. Of course, what's going to happen is I'm going to receive most of the dividends. Interest will be smooth, though, but I'm going to receive most of the dividends right here in March, June, September, and December. In the dark green months, I will receive dividends in these months as well, just not as much. So, but I smooth it out by getting the average there. You can see it, the breakdown between stocks, home equity, and cash. Of course, this line, home equity, doesn't pay me a dime. The only thing it's going to do is when I pay off this home, it's going to lower my expenses. And we can see the liabilities portion right here. This is right here my home, what I have left to pay on that mortgage, and of course the credit card balances, which I pay off in full every month, so I do not incur any interest in my credit cards. We can see the split also with pre-tax and after-tax U.S. and international. You can see how my net worth has just gone up quite nicely. When I really started tracking it here in November 2022, you can see we're nearly back into the 1.8s again, but it fluctuates. But you can see, though, just the difference in change of net worth from November 2022 until now. We'll do a quick analysis of that, and just in that time frame, I've increased my net worth over $500,000, and that's just been done on a modest income, just my own income. This is just my own net worth and myself. So you can see how that's gone up, and really the secret to that is, obviously I haven't spent it down, but I can't get into, technically I can't get into the IRA or 401k. Of course there's ways around that, but I've just been adding to it and increasing to it, but modestly. I don't make a whole lot of money. I'm not a big earner. I don't make $250,000 a year, anything like that. So, but what I've been doing is I've been contributing to my 401k. Right now it's very modestly. I've kind of backed off because you can see right here on this line, I'll show you that, you know, I'm a 401k millionaire with the IRA and the 401k. So people call that like coast fi, but I'm not necessarily coasting. I'm still contributing to my 401k right now. 5%. I'm getting that employer match, as well as dripping the dividends, you know, from the IRAs, and so I'm still adding to those technically. So that's how I'm building those. But really, it's just been the work I've done ahead of time, you know, getting to the 1.2 million right here in November 22. Really, that is just the compounding of that large amount. You can see what it's doing and doing the heavy lifting for me going forward. So that's all I had to show you guys for this video. We'll go back to those buys. And again, this is based on auto invest and what was underweighted in the portfolio. So Costco, Pepsi, and Kimberly-Clark were the selections. Really M1 kind of doing the picking on that. Again, based on what's underweighted. Waste management, again, that was a dividend drip. So let me know in the comments below what you guys are buying this week. And if you got value from this video, please click the like button. You should also subscribe so you do not miss future videos. I still have to do my Vanguard video to show you, you know, performance over time in that portfolio. And then SCHD is going to be announcing their dividend, I think their new dividend tomorrow, I believe, on 24th. And my calculations are right. Could be wrong. Could be the week after, but I think it's going to be tomorrow. So we'll see. So thanks again, everyone, for sticking to the end of the video. I hope everyone has a great